BMW. Traditionally, the quickest way to get clicks, I think, on a YouTube channel. You'll see so many YouTubers go through and talk about the horrible, horrible BMW product or whatever, or how it's hated. I've always been curious about it because my experience hasn't been that, and maybe I'm not one to speak unbiased because of what I have here, but let's digress. Let's dig into this a little bit. So, most people will buy a BMW, which, for lack of a better term, is on its last legs. Let's be honest. People go and buy a 100,000 plus mile BMW from a corner lot somewhere, think they have something, and essentially that car is at the point where it needs all its major maintenance. Is it excessive? I don't know, maybe not. I mean, if you compare the BMW product line to many other cars, you'll see that, like many other cars, there are some engine designs that have some issues. There are some other things that go wrong, but nothing that I've seen that are excessive or beyond even what you see with a lot of major brands. I mean, for example, the F-150 is the world's best-selling truck. But for years, it had a 3-valve engine, which had all sorts of issues, from spark plugs having some issues where you couldn't get them out, head bolts that broke off, a bunch of different issues. But it's not a popular thing to go and bash Ford for some reason, because I guess maybe it's America's most beloved truck. But let a BMW go wrong, and it's like the world has ended. Now, mind you, we have some issues. I mean, you have people who drive, like, let's say a 2006 era M5 with the S85 engine, which without proper maintenance will have some rod bearing issues. You know, these are folks who are driving hard and may not be changing the oil at a proper interval, and the rod bearings get toasted, and and you're in for a major expensive repair. But in that, there are preventive steps to prevent that from happening, and there are many people who are driving the car, but it's an M5 and it's a horrible thing. You have other issues with suspension issues on the BMWs, and I'll give you that. There might be some extra stuff there, but I think that's part of the allure of the car is its handling. And with that, there might be some things that aren't necessarily gonna tolerate being out of spec as much as, say, your average family car or wagon or whatever. However, buying a BMW, you're expecting to have that precise handling, you're expecting these things, and with that requires some tighter fits and stuff like that. There isn't much room for give there, and of course, when those things wear out, they wear out and they need to be changed. And depending on how you do it and where you go to, it might be pricey. This is why you have a lot of independent shops, which will get you a much better deal than a lot of dealerships will. A lot of independent mechanics that are good at these things. And I think for the most part, you could have a good used BMW if you follow a few steps. So here are my own collection of BMWs. Starting here, this was my 2019 through 2020 daily driver. This was my E30 318i. It's a 91. So, unique factoid about this car is in the 91 era, or it might be 90, they got rid of the M10 or M20 engine and put in the M42. So this is a dual overhead cam, 4-cylinder engine, which at the time of release had about 140 horsepower. Really neat design, high revving for its time with a 6,500 RPM redline. This car has somewhere above 220,000 miles. I say that because the odometer stopped clicking about 6 or 7 years ago, and this car has kept on going. Regular oil changes, nothing too bad out of the norm. I mean, the closest thing that kept me stranded was a couple of years ago, the linkage for the shifter broke and I couldn't get it in gear. And I wasn't actually stranded. I actually was at home when it happened. So it was a interesting drive to the repair shop to have it replaced, because I just didn't have the room to do it in my garage, and took it to a shop and had that done. Regular maintenance, this car has kept on going. Random stuff is broken, like it needed a new vent fan. Steering knuckle needed to be replaced. Starting here, this was my 2019 through 2020 daily driver. This was my E30 318i. It's a 91. So, unique factoid about this car is in the 91 era, or it might be 90, they got rid of the M10 or M20 engine and put in the M42. So this is a dual overhead cam, 4-cylinder engine, which at the time of release had about 140 horsepower. Really neat design, high revving for its time with a 6,500 RPM redline. This car has somewhere above 220,000 miles. I say that because the odometer stopped clicking about 6 or 7 years ago, and this car has kept on going. Regular oil changes, nothing too bad out of the norm. I mean, the closest thing that kept me stranded was a couple of years ago, the linkage for the shifter broke and I couldn't get it in gear. And I wasn't actually stranded, I actually was at home when it happened. So it was a interesting drive to the repair shop to have it replaced because I just didn't have the room to do it in my garage, and took it to a shop and had that done. Regular maintenance, this car has kept on going. Random stuff is broken, like it needed a new vent fan, steering knuckle needed to be replaced, some suspension components being replaced. But this car was well maintained by its previous owner before I bought it, and as such, no issues. I've driven this on about a 3 or 4 hour road trip back and forth, no big deal. This next to me is an interesting case. This is an E90 325, a 2006, with about 158,000 miles on it. Again, this one has been somewhat maintained, maybe not at your precise BMW dealership or BMW independent mechanic, but it has been maintained. And similarly, this thing starts, it runs, it does leak oil. I get it, yes. That one doesn't, this one does. But it's okay. I mean, this is not something that I think somebody bought used would have a terrible time with, but again, it requires its proper maintenance. What quirky things keep happening with it? Window regulators. Somehow in the E90 generation, BMW got that wrong. There's some suspension things that are known to go bad with this particular model, but again, for the price you pay for what you get out of it, it's not too terrible. But let some other YouTuber or other influencer tell you, like, it's the devil. This is this modern BMW, it's all terrible, it's horrible, it's whatever. Between these two, yes, this is a more comfortable ride, it's a lot bigger with all the safety features and nannies and stuff like that. I do enjoy this one more, the E30, because it's a more visceral experience, but not necessarily because of reliability reasons and stuff like that. Like both of these, you press the button to start, it starts, you turn the key on this when it starts, they both go from point A to point B, no problem. And finally, we have my wife's key point there, 2019 BMW X3. Bought it brand new from Auto House BMW here in St. Louis. Not sponsored by them, but I like to call out people who did as well. No problems. I really don't have anything to say about this, Wayne. BMW includes all your maintenance for the first 3 years of ownership. It's gone in for the oil changes, and I get it, yes. Their service intervals are terrible. Thankfully, our mileage wasn't at their limit, which was like, I think 10 or 15,000 miles. We were between 6,000 to 7,000 miles per oil change. Some might say that was too much. However, it was a happy medium. It was covered, and now I'll return to our normal maintenance schedule. But with that said, excellent gas mileage. You get all the thrills and the handling that you would expect from a BMW, which is the point of why people buy these things. Comfortable, firm seats, all the technology you wanted, a fair price. This vehicle, when we bought it, wasn't too much more than a comparable RDX with all the fixings, except for the fact that maybe it was worth a couple $1,000s more, because unlike our Acura, where if you want this color car, you can only have these features and this color interior, there's no customization there at all of Acura. So if you want, especially in this one, the A-Spec Acura RDX comes with that nice electric blue color with red interior and whatever. You can't get the A-Spec Acura with all the features that are in the advanced package, which kind of makes it useless. My point, let me get off that box for a second. So anyways, it's how we landed here with this X3. I mean, I'm an equal car lover, we'll try all sorts of things, but the X3 to me was it was a standout choice at the price point we were shopping for. We also looked at Infiniti, I believe it was the Q55 or QX55, one of those things. Yeah, at the time didn't have CarPlay and a bunch of other weird things, just weird features that are missing. So BMW had a pretty good product here, and I'm not too worried about this thing. I mean, 3 years, it has the B48 engine. I haven't heard too many terrible things about it. It's been wholly reliable. It's been a fun car. I mean, Yes, sports mode on a 4-cylinder BMW, you're not really doing much, but it's fun. And when we go on, my family and I go on road trips, I like to go off the interstate sometimes and find some windy back roads, especially if I'm going to the south and looking for boiled peanuts. Another topic, but it's enjoyable to have a car that you can go off the beaten path a little bit and enjoy in the twisties as much as you can on a high center of gravity SAV. So that's the X3 here. I mean, these things used are typically good runaround vehicles. I've seen a lot of folks in them or whatever, and they just seem to work. I mean, you do the maintenance on these and they will generally be okay. I don't think excessively worse than any other car, which seems to be the theme of most YouTubers. You know, yes, you buy an M product that's been beat to death and then get mad that it's not reliable or had these issues. You buy a 7 Series, you know, which is a high-end luxury car, $100,000 plus car, and it has issues. I mean, you can go on and on and on. Again, my point here is there are so many vehicles out there that have major traumatic failures. Again, I already mentioned the Ford Triton V8. There's the Chevy or GM 3.6 liter V6. There is Porsche with their IMS bearing issues from the early 2000s. On the 986 Boxster and the 996 Porsches. Cylinder wall scoring with Porsche with the 987 and 997 generations and their 3.4 liter engine. You have timing chain guide problems on a whole host of vehicles. But for some odd reason, let it be any of these here, it's the worst thing in the world. They're completely unreliable. Another topic at hand too are even the contention that goes along with BMW owners. And I get it. I don't take anything from the jokes there, but I always wondered, like, how did this come to be? Maybe I'm young, maybe I'm naive here, and I have missed out on it. But I go to a BMW club meeting, and just some of those guys are some of the nicest people I've ever met. You know, they enjoy their car, they enjoy other cars, but they really enjoy these cars because they enjoy driving on twisty roads and stuff like that. Anyways, that's my little diatribe on the BMW products and asking the question why they are hated as much as they are. I'd love to know in the comments. You know, light me up. Let me know what I'm missing here. Why are these so hated? And why do the YouTube algorithms and stuff, they reward the hate for BMW? Anyways, thank you for watching. If you enjoy this content, I would really appreciate a like, a subscribe, and click that notification bell to know whenever I put something else new out. Again, thanks for watching. Catch y'all later.